So good evening, President Kleesner, council members, members of the press, fellow citizens of Dubois County. My name's Brad Hoeksaw. I'm a candidate for State Senate in District 48, co-founder of Mid-States Update, and a resident of Jasper. You invited us here to present our case tonight after the RDA made its presentation on December 29th. I appreciate that. I intend to honor your invitation by being brief, direct, and by making your decision here as easy as possible. I'm not here to debate the Mid-States Corridor. That debate's over. The project is dying, and everyone in this room knows it. I'm here about one thing: voting to withdraw Dubois County from the Regional Development Authority. And I want to tell you up front, this should be the easiest vote you ever take. Let me start with what the RDA's own representatives told you on December 29th. Mr. Kaiser, RDA's legal counsel, told this council there's virtually nothing left for the RDA to do. His words: Mr. Schrader, the chair, confirmed that Tier 1 is complete and that Tier 2 is entirely NDOT's responsibility. Mr. Kaiser told you the RDA has no revenue source, no taxing authority, and that its powers, including eminent domain, are a paper tiger. Their own counsel also acknowledged that the RDA missed the statutory window for initiating renewal, the 12 to 18-month period required under Indiana Code Title 36, Article 7.6, Chapter 2, Section 5. So the RDA's own leadership told you they have nothing to do, no money, no real power, and they missed their own deadline. They made our case for us. We barely have to be here. But we are here because there's a number that this council needs to reckon with. 81% of Dubois County's registered voters oppose the Mid-States Corridor. Countywide, registered voters, a professional public policy poll paid for by the Property Rights Alliance and individual citizens like me. These are the exact people you represent. And the same poll found that the vast majority of those voters will not re-elect anyone who supported the corridor or failed to take a clear position against it. That's their promise. Now, you're the Dubois County Council. Your jurisdiction is this county. These are your voters. This is your job. They told you what they want with perfect clarity. So I have to ask, and I'm asking sincerely, what possible reason could you have for not listening to them? I can only think of two explanations. Either you're afraid of something or someone, or you think you know better than 81% of you, the people you represent. If it's fear, if there's pressure from somewhere, I want you to know we have your back. We represent the 81%. We have organizational capacity, volunteers, and reach that can counter pressure from any side. We'll have your back, and 81% of Dubois County will have your back too. And if you think you know better, I genuinely like to hear that explanation because I've been at this for a long time, but we'll come back to that in a moment. When we released that 81% number, some people said it was just a local issue, just Dubois County, just the people in the path. So we tested it. I commissioned a new statewide poll paid for by ordinary citizens like myself, members of the PRA and the Coalition to Stop the Mid-States Corridor. Public policy polling surveyed 554 registered voters across Indiana this week, and the results are devastating for the project. 74% of Indiana voters want the Mid-States Corridor canceled. Not Dubois County voters, Indiana voters. Statewide, 88% want the $1.1 billion redirected to local road and bridge projects across the state. 88-3. That's some of the 400 projects that have been canceled by NDOT. This is not a close call. This is a verdict. 85% say the state should respect local opposition when a community opposes a highway project. Only 3% say proceed anyway. And here's the number that should matter most to every elected official in this room. 74% of Hoosier voters support the legislature overriding the governor's veto if they try to cancel this project. 74 to 5. And before anyone assumes these are Democratic voters who don't understand Southern Indiana, let me give you the crosstabs. Among Donald Trump voters, 69% want the Mid-States Corridor canceled. Among self-identified Republicans, 65% want it canceled. Among Republicans, 84% want the funding redirected to local roads and bridges. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a regional issue. This is the governor versus everyone else, and everyone else is winning. 56% of Hoosier voters said they'd be more likely to vote for a legislator who cancels this project. Only 6% said less likely. That's 9 to 1. There is no political constituency for the Mid-States Corridor. There's only political risk. And Governor Braun's statewide approval, 25% approve, 53% disapprove. That's statewide. In December, his approval in Dubois County, his home county, was 16%. The people of Indiana are sending a message, and it's not subtle. Here's the context you're making this decision in. At the State House, even Republicans are publicly questioning this project. Jim Pressel, the Republican chair of the House Roads and Transportation Committee, looked INDOT in the eye and said he can't understand spending $1 billion plus on a new highway while hundreds, over 400 other road projects are being canceled. His words, "I'm just not getting it." Kerry Hamilton proposed letting the public decide on this project statewide. That didn't fail on the merits. It got blocked on procedure. And here's the point that matters for you. Don't act like one person in Indianapolis can snap their fingers and make this happen. Even the governor can't build a multi-billion-dollar highway by executive order. The legislature controls appropriations, and the state budget bakes in oversight mechanisms. Budget committee review on major moves and transfers is literally written into the budget law. So if anyone is sitting here thinking, we can't cross the wrong powerful person, understand this. The power to keep Dubois County in the RDA is not some unstoppable force. It's a choice. And tonight the choice is yours. There's legislation in the pipeline that would give the state legislature more fiscal oversight over the Mid-States Corridor. If that passes, the project effectively loses its funding. We expect it to be passed. And then we expect it to be vetoed by the governor, and for that veto to be overridden. 74% of Indiana agrees with me. Within days, the legislature may end funding for this project. Do you want to be the last body in Indiana still clinging to a dead RDA for a dead road? Or do you want to lead? You need to act before that happens. Today even. You won't get credit for opposing something that's already dead. We're disclosing this here today because we wanted to give you time to make this right on this issue. We're telling you exactly how to do that. I want to publicly recognize Doug Ubelor and Alex Hull. Doug's attended Property Rights Alliance meetings. He's listened. He showed courage. He told this council in November that he's been against it for years now, openly, and that the project totally changed from what it was sold to begin with. Alex has also demonstrated that he understands what representation means. We support people who support us, and we remember the people who stand up when it counts. Doug, Alex, yes, I want you to know this, that when your elections come, we'll remember. The PRA will remember. The coalition will remember. And I, as a Democratic candidate for state senate will gladly appear alongside of you and speak of your courage, regardless of party. That's how seriously we take this. And that's how much we value elected officials who actually listen to their voters. Councilmember Stallman, welcome to the body. You're new. You were just appointed a few weeks ago to fill a vacancy. You didn't create this situation. And you don't carry the baggage of past decisions. That gives you something valuable, a clean slate and a clear choice. You've already filed to run for this seat, and that tells me you're serious about serving. The best way to start is by listening to the people you'll be asking to vote for you. 81% of them have spoken, and now 74% of the entire state agrees. We're offering you partnership. Stand with your constituents, and we'll tell people you had the integrity to do the right thing, even if it might have been easier to go along and get along. You don't owe anyone on this council your vote. You owe the people of Dubois County, and they've been clear. Councilmember Vogel, I want to speak to you directly. You've been very thoughtful on this issue. At the November meeting, you told this council that the road would be something that I and my family members would have to cross every day. You said you feel we may be cut off from the rest of the county. You raised the concern that there's not even an option for an overpass on 164. Those are your words, and they matter. I want to build on what you already know, because this project is personal for you, whether you fully reckon with it or not. You live near Celestine. You commute to Memorial Hospital in Jasper. If the Mid-States Corridor is built, you'll cross a J-turn on State Road 164 at least twice every workday. That's not hypothetical. That's your daily commute, made longer and more dangerous by a project that 81% of your constituents oppose and 74% of the state wants canceled. At minimum, that's 3 more minutes of driving every day. And once you account for traffic and backups at the J-turn, it'll likely be much more. When we talk about quality of life, in that phrase, it keeps coming up because it matters. This is what we mean. This project doesn't just threaten property and farmland. It threatens the daily experience of people living here. It changes your drive to work. And the people who designed it never measured what that costs people who actually live here. You wouldn't be stepping out alone. You'd be joining a majority of this council. This is your chance to show your constituents that when they speak, you listen. We'll be your advocates, not your opposition. Silence is a position, and your voters notice. I hope you'll let them see you choose their side. Councilmember Haas, you said it yourself at the November meeting. I'm totally against it. You said it would make it harder for the local citizens of the county. You pointed to safety concerns, the J-turns, the county roads being turned into dead ends, the impact on first responders. You were right then, and the numbers have only gotten stronger since. You were on this council when it approved the $1.75 million for the Tier 1 study. You've said publicly that the project has totally changed from what it was sold to begin with, and that takes honesty. Now I'm asking you to match that honesty with action. 81% of your constituents agree with you. 74% of the state agrees with you. Vote the way you've already spoken, and we will stand behind you. Councilmember Lewis, I know this is not a simple vote for you, and I want to be straightforward about that. You said publicly that you're looking for the softest financial landing for the county, and that you're not a fan of the route. You said there are too many disconnects. I heard you. I respect the way you approach decisions. I've seen it firsthand. You do the work, you listen, and you do what's in your heart. That's all anyone can ask. But I want you to consider what your constituents are telling you. 81% of them oppose this project. 74% of the state wants it canceled. And the RDA's own legal counsel says there's nothing left for them to do. The softest landing is one where you listen to your voters and withdraw from an authority that has no purpose. That's not a hard landing. That's a clean exit. And there's no version of this where staying in the RDA protects the county's finances. It only preserves an entity with broad statutory powers and no accountability. I hope we align on this, but whatever you decide, you have my respect. President Kleesner, at the December meeting, you asked a question that matters. Does it go away or what? In other words, the council, if the council doesn't vote, does it just fade away on its own? Let me answer that plainly. No. If this council does nothing, if you don't pass a withdrawal ordinance, or you delay a vote, you're still making a choice. Inaction is not neutrality. The default is that Dubois County stays bound to an authority that has nothing left to do, that missed its own statutory deadlines, and that 81% of your voters want you to leave. Under Indiana Code Title 36, Article 7.6, Chapter 2, Section 3, Jasper and Huntingburg cannot withdraw unless the county does first. So if you wait it out, you don't just bind the county, you bind those cities too. Not voting is a vote, and voters will understand it as one. Now, I've also heard a fair concern that withdrawing from the RDA could leave this county without a seat at the table, without someone to communicate with NDOT on the county's behalf. I want to take that seriously because it deserves an answer. First, the RDA hasn't been keeping the council informed. You weren't even contacted about the renewal requirements. If the RDA was your line of communication to NDOT, that line was already broken well before we got here. Second, NDOT does not need the RDA to build this project. Tier 2 is entirely in NDOT's responsibility. They have their own project managers, they have their own engineers, they have their own public engagement process. If they need to talk to the county, they know where you meet. Third, and this is the important part, anything NDOT proposes that affects Dubois County should come before this council and the commissioners directly. That's how representative government works. The people of this county deserves to have their elected officials at the table, not an unelected board that hasn't been reporting back to you anyway. President Kleesner, you've sat in that chair through every meeting on the issue. You've heard the 81%, and now you've heard the 74%. You've heard the RDA's own counsel say there's nothing left to do. I believe you want to do right by this county. Tonight's the chance to show it. Call the vote. I want to say something about how we got to this place. Somewhere along the way, some people in local government started enjoying the feeling of being in the room more than the responsibility of representing the people who sent them there. Big projects, schmoozing with the governor, feeling like they know what's best for everyone. You've seen the pattern. A mayor resigns, a county councilman gets appointed to replace him through a party caucus, no election, then another appointment fills the council vacancy. Nobody voted for any of it. Offices changing hands in a closed room, decided by a handful of party insiders. Meanwhile, the people of Dubois County are just told to trust the process. Now, let me make this personal for a moment, because this project is not an abstraction for me. It's my home. My family bought a house in the study area 1 year after moving back home to Jasper. Before we closed, a trusted neighbor asked our realtor directly, would potential buyers be warned about the corridor? The answer? No. They had no obligation to disclose it. No obligation. And the irony is, the owner of that RE/MAX brokerage is your former colleague and our future mayor, Ryan Craig. You can't tell me he was acting in our best interests. Whether or not what was done to me was legal or not, it was immoral. And I don't believe it's representative of the values of our community as a whole. Is it any wonder that the good people here are wondering about fair and just representation? Think about it. Families making the biggest financial decision of their lives in the shadow of a project that could take their property and nobody even mentions it. That's what happens when insiders decide they know what's best and the rest of us are just supposed to go along. That's what happened when the system rewards being in the room more than being accountable to the people outside it. But this is much bigger than just my home. Multiply my story by every landowner who couldn't refinance, couldn't sell, couldn't plan, couldn't sleep because a speculative project sat over their property like a lien no one voted for. Many of them, unlike myself, have deep generational connections to their land. That's why 81% matters. It's not just opposition, it's a verdict. It's the public saying, we see the pattern. We paid the price and we're done. And the people finally spoke. 81% of registered voters, loud enough that no one can pretend it's complicated anymore. That's accountability arriving late, but arriving all the same. Hank Minke's recent effort to rebrand a dying project as a corporate logistics opportunity only reinforces what people have sensed from the beginning. This has been driven more by inside influence than public need. I understand he's been convening business leaders to build a narrative about savings and trucks being diverted from local roads. I've heard talk of more private fundraising to offset local costs and keep the project alive. Whether or not that materializes, let me be clear about the principle. Public policy is not for sale. If the corridor, and by extension the RDA, can't stand on transparent facts, public benefit, and voter consent, no amount of private money should be used to buy legitimacy, by silence, or by outcomes. You know what the people of Dubois County actually want? They want you to fix the problems that affect their daily lives. The stoplights on the north side of Jasper, between the police post and Walmart that back up every day. The congestion between Jasper and Huntingburg on US 231. Those are problems we can fix with targeted, affordable improvements that people will notice immediately. And more than that, people want to preserve what makes this county worth living in. The quiet roads, the farmland, the sense of community, the quality of life that generations of families have built here. The Mid-States Corridor doesn't protect any of that. It threatens it. And the people who would pay the price are not the people who stand to profit. The Mid-States Corridor doesn't solve the problems people actually have. But withdrawing from a purposeless RDA and redirecting your attention to the real needs of the people, that's governing. That's what representation looks like. I have something for you tonight. This is a draft withdrawal ordinance. It follows Indiana Code Title 36, Article 7.6, Chapter 2, Section 5, exactly. Adopt the ordinance. Provide written notice to the RDA, and the RDA notifies the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. That's it. You have everything you need to act tonight. There's nothing left to study. There's nothing left to review. The RDA's own people told you that. I'm asking for a vote, a recorded roll call vote. Let every member of this council go on the record so voters know exactly where you stand. If any member of this council can explain to me why you should vote against 81% of your constituents and now 74% of the state, I'd be grateful to hear it. I mean that, because I've been at this for a while and I still can't figure it out. Do you not believe the polls? Then commission your own. We paid for ours with donations from individual citizens. You have the county's resources. Do you think you know better? Then say so. Own it. Tell 4 out of 5 of your neighbors that you know what's best for them, and tell 3 out of 4 Hoosiers that you know better than they do. Because that's what a no vote means, or postponing a vote means tonight. It means I heard you, and I chose to ignore you. I'm part of a movement that is never going to stop. That's not a threat. It's just a fact of life in Dubois County now. If you vote yes tonight, we can work together. We can fix real problems. We move on. If you don't, we're still here at every meeting, in every district, talking to your voters. Not because we're vindictive, but because this is personal for us. This is about our homes. It's about our families. It's about our county and our quality of life. And we're not going anywhere. Even Commissioner Blessinger is questioning whether this RDA should continue. The Republican chair of the Indiana House Transportation Committee thinks spending $1 billion on this while killing over 400 other projects is unconscionable. Legislation to end the corridor's funding could pass within days, and now 74% of Indiana voters are standing with us. The ground is shifted, and you can feel it. Pass the ordinance. Withdraw from the RDA. Stand with Doug and Alex. Stand with 81% of your constituents, and stand with 74% of Indiana. And then let's get to work on what really matters to the citizens of this county. Thank you.